for all practical purposes, there's not going to be any dump Trump movement that gets anywhere. There never was anyway. It was always a fantasy fanned on by the elite media.
All right, Newt Gingrich says the debate last night effectively ended the dump Trump movement. I don't know, that isn't jiving with this tit-for-tat we're hearing from the likes of Paul Ryan and Donald Trump essentially zinging each other, either with tweets or just statements they're putting out. So it hasn't gotten nicer and cozier. George Pataki, the former governor of the fine state of New York, who had been urging Republicans maybe to reconsider Mr. Trump. I wonder how he feels now. Governor, good to have you.
Neil, nice being on with you.
So what do you make of this? And Donald Trump is effectively telling Paul Ryan and others, get over it. Where do you stand?
It's not a question of getting over it. It's a question of surviving a horrific candidate, someone who is unfit to be president of the United States. And by the way, Neil, I could be talking about either one of them, Hillary or Trump. But his last tape, the one that was released, I think just piles on the sense that a majority of Americans feel that he is unfit to be president. And as a Republican, I'm going to vote.
He apologized for that 3 times. He apologized 3 times. I'm sure you're not, but do you forgive people?
Sure, but that was one of the most insincere apologies. You know, locker room talk. I've been in a lot of locker rooms, and I've never heard anything like that. But moving on, Neil, the sad thing is that Hillary Clinton is unfit. She has made that plain year after year. But we have a candidate who cannot beat her. And if he got out of the way, Mike Pence, I think, would beat her by double digits, even starting this late and even with early balloting having begun. If we stick with Trump, we have a really serious chance of losing the House, losing the Senate, not just electing Hillary, but giving her control of Congress so she could ram through her Supreme Court nomination.
There's no procedure for that, Governor, right? There's no procedure for that.
Yes, there is. If the candidate
enlighten me, because I've talked to lawyers and constitutionalists who says there isn't, but how would it be done? Let's say, especially if Donald Trump didn't step down.
Well, I think what he did last night is maybe stop the Titanic from sinking immediately, but he's still going to sink, and I fear he's going to take too many Republicans with him. So I'm going to vote. I'm going to write in Mike Pence. I'm going to go out there and try to convince every other voter to make sure we vote for every Republican candidate for the House and Senate, and, you know, just pray for the best. But we have to reflect on this. Our party can't be a party that
Your party did, Governor. Your party did. I know how you feel personally about it. They nominated him. They nominated him. And now, all of a sudden, a tape comes out, 11 years old. I'm not saying for or against. I'm just saying, hey, it is what it is.
You have to learn.
You can't just dig up another candidate, right?
We have Mike Pence, but you have to learn. And we have to learn.
400,000 people have voted, Governor. 400,000 people have voted. Millions of ballots have already been printed across the country.
400,000 people in a country with 330 million. I think if the Republicans could get a do-over, we'd do it in a flash. You can't get a do-over, but he could step aside. Mike Pence is there, and at least we would hold the House and the Senate. And Pence, I think, had he had the time to start earlier, would have won easily. I still think he would beat Hillary, because I think a majority of the American people know that both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are unfit to be president of the United States. We need another choice.
All right, but what happens if he does win? If Donald Trump wins, besides you never, ever getting a single White House invite, the whole Republican Party will be more at war with itself if he wins than if he loses.
Well, you know, I don't wish either of these two candidates on the American people. But what I do hope is that we continue to hold the House and Senate. And, you know, just Trump now tweeting anti-Paul Ryan stuff is such nonsense and so juvenile. He just can't help himself. Well, the American people can help themselves. Write in Mike Pence, or try to convince Trump that for the interest of himself and this country, get out of the way, let a Republican win, and let this country move forward. You know, I was watching where Governor Pence was saying this should be about security and prosperity. He's absolutely right. It should be about security and prosperity. And on both those issues, an overwhelming majority of Americans would vote Republican and reject Hillary. But that's not what it's about. It's about Donald Trump and his moronic comments and behavior.
Did you watch the debate last night? Did you watch it last night?
I did watch it, Neil.
How did he do?
I think he was awful and she was worse, you know, which just reflects on the two candidates. You know, it's been a race to the bottom. They've both gotten there. And now it's a question of who can dig a deeper hole in the bottom. And if I had to bet, it would be Donald Trump, sadly. Not because of the Republican Party. He was never a Republican until recently. He's not a conservative. His philosophy is all about himself and making money, and that's not what my party stands for.
All right, I understand where you're coming from. You're a decent man, Governor, but you guys are developing a circular firing squad, the likes of which I don't think I've seen in a long, long time.
It's about survival, Neil, and the Republican Party needs to reject this bigoted candidate.
How do you survive, no, Governor, how do you survive a circular firing squad?
You survive by electing a majority again in the House, electing a majority in the Senate again, and hopefully enough people leaning on Trump that he steps aside and Mike Pence can win. And by the way, if he doesn't, I will write in Mike Pence. He's a decent man, should have been our nominee, and if he had been, he would have won easily.
We shall see. Governor, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Neil.